Okay, so I want to talk a little about a subject that's interested me for a long time. That is ufology, ufology. Um, this is something that goes back to the mid late 90s. I was interested in this, then sort of lost interest for about 10 years or so, and I sort of regained interest, and it's something that still periodically takes my attention. I used to be interested in 14 TV, which was a British program on the paranormal, and I was a fan of the X Files and a few other sci-fi series. Um, what's captivated my interest in this again is firstly this new film that's coming out, The Arrival. It looks intriguing, and I want to go and see that. I'll probably do a film review if I get round to it. Um, Secondly, I came across a channel, UFO case samples, something like that. I forget the exact name of the channel. I'll try and put a link on this video. But it's a good channel because they have the guy has concise videos documenting well-known cases. I think it's called UFO Case Review. About 5-6 minutes each, and it's not entirely biased, so it's simply laying out the case and also laying out the skeptical argument, and it lays out well-known cases such as the Kelly Hopkinsville incident of 1955. In that incident, and I'm going to talk about that a bit more than the others, in that incident basically there was a family in the small hamlet of Kelly, Kentucky, Christian County, Kentucky, 1955, and they alleged that small goblin-like creatures attacked their premises. And after a sustained assault, where the men of the household farmers took shotguns to these creatures, they went to the local police station, and the police had no reason to believe that they were making this up. And they went back, and indeed they found casings of bullets and so on. But what was unusual about that case was firstly the length it lasted, about 3 hours. And secondly, they had no reason to believe that the people were on drugs or drunk or anything like that. And there was also burns marks found on the trees where they had shot these creatures. The creatures were described as having pointy ears, large eyes, and a metallic-like body. Now, the initial explanation for skeptics would be, well, these were barn owls, because the description that they gave sounded like barn owls. Some of the media reports later suggested they were green, which would of course throw out the barn owl theory, but the initial reports didn't suggest they were green. Another well-known case, the Pascagoula abduction, Pascagoula, Alabama, 1973. Two guys were out fishing. One of them alleged that he'd been abducted. The younger man passed out for the duration of that. Now, the older man, 42 at the time, stayed by his story the whole time. The younger man slightly embellished his story later on. One reason that case is interesting is that the investigators tried to establish, well, were these guys faking it? So what they done was they had a recording device under the desk, and they reasoned that if these guys had made something up, they would have kind of discussed it among themselves. But as they were being privately recorded, just the two of them, they continued to talk as if they were genuinely shocked by what had happened, and they continued to talk like anyone going through a traumatic experience. And of course, there's other examples, such as the famous Travis Walton case of 1975. And then there's more, let's say, large-scale incidents. The Rendlesham Forest incident in Britain. It's been called the British Roswell of 1980. And then the Phoenix Lights of 1997. One issue in Phoenix is that the governor of Arizona at the time, Fife Symington III, made light of the incident and brought out one of his staffers dressed as an alien. That irritated a lot of people at the time because they said that he trivialized the event, and he later on admitted that he felt there was something that wasn't being explained about that. In other words, at the time he said he didn't want to cause a panic, but it's almost like treating people like children. So this is basically my take on these sort of situations, and by no means this is intended to be a comprehensive video. Firstly, check out that channel. It's a very interesting case, but it lays out very interesting cases. But what I would say is, in a universe as big as ours, it simply isn't logical that we would be the only life form in the entire universe among billions of galaxies, and they suspect there's probably 10 times as many galaxies as was previously thought. There's a lot of interesting theories about extraterrestrial life. The ancient astronaut theory, with ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics and so on. I believe that certainly in some cases they can be put down to collective irrational thought, but there's some other cases that simply cannot be dismissed that way. And the skeptics, they're always quick to offer some sort of explanation, but for example, in the Pascagoula incident, the sort of creatures those two guys were describing are like nothing. They can't be dismissed as barn owls or anything like that. They sound like robots, actually. But if that is the case, that then poses the question, well, what was this? Is it the US Air Force? Is it the Soviets? Bearing in mind this was during the Cold War. It could be argued that some of the most notable UFO incidents were during the Cold War. So then the natural conclusion would be, or a natural conclusion would be, well, it is either American or Russian technology that obviously those governments want to keep secret. But there has been obviously incidents post-Cold War that that theory cannot really be so easily dismissed. I personally take the view that there is something out there, and I think we have to remove the stigma that if someone, because bear in mind, UFO simply stands for unidentified flying object. It doesn't stand for alien spaceship. That's simply an adjective, unidentified flying object. So let me know your thoughts, but check out that channel. It's very interesting, and I'm sure there's many other videos I can make along these lines. But the Hopkinsville incident, Kelly Hopkinsville, has been described as goblins, gremlins, little green men. It's one of the most interesting, but there's many others. Of course, the Spielberg film Fire in the Sky brought light to the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I believe. Very interesting. Of course, in that situation, 4 of the loggers took lie detector tests. There was one who was a bit of a drifter, and he had inconsistent results, but certainly it had a major impact on the loggers. And one of the major theories with that was that they were trying to cut their work contract early, and it was a big scam. Make of that what you will, but to this day, Travis Walton insists it's the truth. So let me know your thoughts. I personally believe you cannot dismiss all of it as being in people's imagination. Some of it certainly can be dismissed as weather balloons or other natural phenomena, lightning and so on, but there's simply too many cases to simply dismiss. Let me know your thoughts.